want to talk a bit about correcting our feminine vortex. And we're going to talk about the dynamics of energy in nature because, truthfully, everything is a microcosm of the macrocosm. All the energetic dynamics in the universe and the cosmos, from the largest galaxies to the smallest atom, work on the same spiraling energy principles of a vortex. And so we're going to learn from nature as a demonstration of how this energy is dysfunctional inside of our own feminine being when we can't receive. When you look at nature, a feminine vortex is implosive. And that means that it very silently turns inward, collapsing into itself to generate this unending regenerative power. And this is the form you can see every day in the yin element of water as it goes down a drain. And you see that vortex. And you see how it's very silently moving, but it's actually turning inward on itself. A masculine or a yang vortex is explosive and combustive, and it's like our modern machines because the men invented them and the engines that we know, and it burns off energy and it wastes a tremendous amount of energy in order to create a pretty small amount of power as force. These kinds of masculine vortexes require ongoing fuel to keep the burn going, and so they're highly consuming and they're quite inefficient. So our own internal polarity as dynamic energy works in the exact same manner. A feminine polarity vortex is yin and receptive as it draws in or magnetizes the natural energy around it to feed and sustain itself. Because it's receptive, it naturally, effortlessly draws what it needs right to itself. This is why a feminine magnetic polarity potential has power generation capacity that is infinite. A masculine yang vortex is active as it explodes this energy outwards into force, and it has to be fed by a constant source of fuel to sustain itself. There's no natural fuel source. Some artificial fuel has to be created. So it's extremely inefficient. These energetic forces are active in your own energy dynamics as a human being. And how you run your energy is going to determine how you manage or deplete your own life force. It's important to have a sense of polarity dynamics both in nature and within ourselves, as we are energy devices. One of the core disadvantages we have had in forgetting what we are as energetic beings is that we don't know how to manage and maintain our own complex and very miraculous energy machines, the energy machines that we are. So the principles of polarity apply on all levels of creation. Receiving is often blocked for the feminine because there is an inherent and unnatural vortex reversal in the feminine polarity. This means that as a woman, we're most often running our energy as a feminine generator reversed into giving or sending out like a masculine explosive vortex. But the source of energy generation is still being generated from within. And this causes extreme depletion, and it's just not sustainable. And it blocks new energy from entering the system. There's no receptivity, and the flow is only flowing outward in one direction. So nothing new is entering when receptivity is blocked. This is called a closed energy system. It's entropic, which means it degrades over time. It's self-destructive, and it's not sustainable. If you think in your own body about how you feel both wired and tired all the time, then you start to get a sense of this energetic imbalance. The body, which is what you're using to produce energy rather than drawing it in externally from the natural energy fields. Your body's straining to produce cortisol and adrenaline as hormones, stress hormones, to keep up with the high energy demand that you're putting on your body. And your body eventually gives out and it collapses. And you're probably going to develop mental illness or emotional problems or physical disease because you have this huge energy imbalance of one directional energy flow. And how many overbusy and exhausted women do you know? Are you one of them? you likely have a reversal in your feminine vortex. The symptoms of this can often be seen in what is called adrenal fatigue, because the adrenals are the ones producing those stress hormones, and they're running and running and running when they were intended to only produce those stress hormones in an actual stress, fight, flight event. Our whole lives have become stress events, and so the adrenals are constantly pumping out these stress hormones, and that's what makes you feel wired, and yet they're exhausted and you're exhausted, and so you also feel tired. So you have to learn how to refill your own tank by becoming receptive. In the polarity flow of the body, the left side of the body represents the feminine energy flow as the receptive polarity. Energy enters here and it exits on the right side of the body as the masculine polarity, outward flow of giving. If the right-handed side of the polarity is always giving and the left is never receiving, then the energy flowing out is coming from a limited sort of internal combustion of your stress hormones and your own body's metabolism. It's really just like a combustion engine. It's inefficient and it must be constantly fueled to sustain itself. And the body does use these stress hormones as a fuel, because it doesn't have the fuel of the natural kinetic energy that's all around you that should be gathered naturally and gently. In Chinese medicine, yin depletion is a really common diagnosis because Chinese medicine is well aware of these multiple energy flows in the body. As complex and dynamic energy beings, we have to learn to keep all the energy flows in harmony to sustain health and well-being. We've got to take care of our own needs first. We have to tune our own vehicles, our own vessels, tend to them and fuel them if we're going to have the necessary energy to ever give anything to others. In a harmonic life, all energies are in balance and continual motion. It's not to say, we don't want any masculine energy either. We need both. They form a perfect unit of regenerative power. But the initiation needs to come from the receptivity in the feminine. There's a flow in and a flow out. And this is power generation. And when it's in its yin format of power generation, life is naturally regenerative. Energetically, the traditional feminine martyr role, which we've discussed, of caregiving, service, or nurturing exclusively outwardly, is truly an act of self-destruction, and it will lead to energetic collapse.